Now, betas from fundamental. Beta of a company is based on three things: type of business, the company's degree of operating leverage, the company's financial leverage. So we have seen that now through an example. Now, types of business. Just read it. इसको सुनिए. This is very very important at the back, at there also. So please focus. These are something which you will never learn in your life. So please focus. Okay. Okay.
Type of business, people measure the risk of a company related to the market. That is how sensitive it is to the economic situation. The more sensitive it is to the economic situation, higher will be its beta. Cyclical and consumers discretionary companies will have higher beta compared to non-cyclical and consumer staples companies.
Is that okay? Does it require any explanation? That the how sensitive is the business to the economy will decide whether the company is riskier or less riskier. So whether it will be high beta or low beta, it depends upon what kind of business the company is doing. The company which is in discretionary products like airlines, automobiles, they will always have higher betas. The companies which are into consumer staples or medicine business, or the companies which are business are not impacted because of the state of economy, they will command a lower beta. Okay. So ये भी वही लिखा हुआ है, पढ़ लीजिए.
Cyclical stocks represent companies that make or sell discretionary items and services that are in demand when the economy is doing well. They include restaurants, hotel chains, airlines, furniture, high-end clothing retailers, and automobile manufacturers.
Okay, so these are example of discretionary companies which are considered to be cyclical in nature and having a higher leverage, higher beta. Okay. The companies in housing, automobile, airlines, hotels, real estate are very sensitive to the economic conditions and will have higher betas than the companies that are in food processing, pharma companies, tobacco, which are relatively insensitive to the business cycles. Is that okay? Fine. Now, these are some examples. Okay. Cyclical companies, consumer discretionary companies, and consumer staple companies. For example, automobile stocks, Maruti, beta is 1.22. Okay. For example, real estate, NBCC, beta is this. Electrode chemicals, SRF, 1.38. Consumer discretionary like airlines, hotels, resorts, Apollo Tires, Motherson Sumi, Interglobe Aviation, this is an airline company, hotel, 1. Walt Disney, 1.3. Consumer staples like Nestle 0.38, Britannia 0.3, Hindustan Lever 0.5. Okay. So as an exercise, you can calculate betas using, and you can make some slides on that while you make some presentation. वो भी आप दिखा सकते हैं अपने presentation, good presentation. I have done that. Okay, I'll just show you. In my coming slides, I've done that. So degree of operating leverage. Okay. Just read this. Just read this, all of you. Okay, in your mind, and tell me if you have not heard. I mean, not followed anything. So I'll just read out something which is important. Otherwise, just read it in your mind. If you have any question, if you want to discuss, you can discuss. Is it clear? हो गया? Should I move to the second slide? Okay. Operating leverage. इसको पढ़िए. Read this also. So the first paragraph, the company which has high operating leverage, that means it can squeeze more money out of the additional sale. Is it okay? Second, when a company cost structure is largely based on fixed cost, it doesn't need to spend additional money when the new business prospects come along or a current customer increases its order. Is that okay? Well, Excel sheet is giving you a good idea about how this slide is moving. The company already has necessary assets in place, such as manufacturing facilities, equipment, and those well-paid executives, so it doesn't need to spend tons of money to meet the increased demand. Okay, operating leverage impact. Those savings help raise the profit margins and earnings grow at a much faster rate than sales. But there are risks. Fixed costs must be paid whenever, whether or not the business is booming or when the sales struggle, margins and profits deteriorate quickly. Is that okay? Fine. If the sales go up, you make more money. If the sales go down, then you struggle because the margins are going to drop drastically. Now, there's an example which we covered last time, so I'm just skipping this, which is I've shown it through this thing, degree of financial leverage. So this is very important. Now, operating leverage is gone. Now we come to financial leverage. Other things remaining equal, an increase in financial leverage will increase the equity beta of a firm. Now, there are two kinds of betas. One is called the leverage beta, and it's called unleveraged beta. So we'll talk about that. It's going to come. So I'll talk only when it comes on the slide, okay? In better times, the fixed interest payments on debt financing will increase the EPS and push it down in the worst times. So because if the sales come down, we'll find because of the leverage also, because the cost remains the same and the sales come down, it will lead to more loss to the company, okay? Because the company has to meet the interest cost. The interest cost is fixed. Company has taken a loan. If the company's sales drop, company's profits also drop, significantly. Higher leverage increases the variability of earning per share and makes the equity investment riskier. So, for an equity investor, if the company is having higher leverage, if it's taken more loans, that means equity shareholder, he feels the company has become riskier because the impacts in, the fortunes of the business can impact the earning per share of the company. If the sales drop because of recession or because of, downturn in the economy, the earning per share is going to drop quickly if the company is having a good amount of financial leverage because the company has to pay interest. Okay. Now, there is two kinds of levered beta and unlevered beta. The levered beta is the company's beta with loan. Suppose the company has taken a loan. So the beta depends upon two things. Okay. One is the business of the company. Okay. And the operating leverage. Operating leverage is part of the business. Fine. Because some businesses, companies have high operating leverage. Like I talked about telecom. Telecom is, a company which is having a high operating leverage by design of the business. Okay. Like, accountancy firm, which will always have a higher beta because most of or even companies like Infosys or Tiscos, they will be slightly on a higher leverage because they deploy people for getting the work done. And they pay fixed, salaries to them. Okay. So the beta of the company is dependent on the type of business and operating leverage, which can be combined together. Okay. Which is called the unlevered beta. Okay. And the levered beta is how much loan you take. Okay. Just read this. Kiran, padhiye.
The unlevered beta of a firm is determined by the type of business in which it operates and its operating leverage. It is also called asset beta.
Hold on. Now, there is something called asset beta or business beta. The same thing. Asset beta or business beta. They depend upon the type of business. Okay. Each type of business has its own, operating leverage. Some companies have high fixed costs, some have low. So, the beta, the type of business and operating leverage can be clubbed together because we can't distinguish it from the business because it's part of business. Okay. So, it is called asset beta. Okay. Second,
But beta or equity beta of a company is determined by both the riskiness of the business it operates in and the amount of financial leverage risk it has taken on.
so, beta can be broken into two, the levered beta and unlevered beta. Okay. So, unlevered beta is the business itself. So, I'm including the operating leverage into it. I'll call it business only now. उसमें operating भी घुसा हुआ है, but it's business. Second is the levered beta. The levered beta is the business plus the the leverage part also. तो जो हम कंपनी का बीटा निकालते हैं बाय द हिस्टोरिकल रिग्रेशन मेथड्स कॉल्ड द लेवर्ड बीटा, जो अभी आपने निकाला था स्टॉक मार्केट रिटर्न्स और मार्केट रिटर्न से, दैट इज द लेवर्ड बीटा ऑफ द कंपनी. ओके, बट वी कैन सेग्रीगेट द बीटा इनटू टू, लेवर्ड एंड अनलेवर्ड, इफ यू वांट. Fine. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So this is the formula. The formula is like this. I'm just putting a formula here again. So levered beta formula is equal to unlevered beta bracket 1 plus 1 minus t debt upon equity, bracket closed. Just have a look at the formula. Huh? T represents tax, because the tax is going to, tax is basically, the interest is tax deductible. See, the debt upon equity. The more company has debt, okay, less of equity, it is going to increase the beta, isn't it? Because this equation says that more amount of debt, because the T factor is the tax factor. The tax factor is going to pull down the beta of the company, because tax is advantage, gives advantage, okay, on the leverage, because tax is, the interest is reducing your interest liability, tax is interest decreasing your interest liability. So that's why the word 1 minus t. Okay, so debt upon equity, the companies which have more debt, their beta is going to be higher, isn't it? So ये formula देखो आराम से, इसमें क्या है, levered beta is equal to what? Unlevered beta, open the bracket, unlevered beta plus the unlevered beta into this. Is that okay? Have you got the formula construct how it is done? Have you got it? ये formula simple है to understand, because we are saying that company may have two types of leverages. One is called the unlevered beta, one called the levered beta. So हम जब निकालते हैं तो हम levered beta ही निकालते हैं by regressing the returns of the market versus the stock. So we get levered beta. But the formula is, the levered beta is dependent on two things: the unlevered beta, which is the business itself, and the structure of the capital structure of the company. Okay. So if the capital structure is more towards the loan, the beta will go up. Is that clear? Have you followed? Okay. Now let's take an example. Okay, I told you that the beta can be calculated. There's something called bottoms-up approach. Instead of regressing the returns of the company returns with the market returns, we can calculate the beta with the help of bottoms-up approach, which is far more better. Okay, rather than calculating beta through the mechanism which we have learned so far. Though it is slightly, it involves a lot of calculations and a lot of understanding. So I'm trying to explain to you. Okay, just try to understand. So there is a company. Through example, I'm telling you. There is a company, ABC Limited, is in a single business, aerospace. Okay, it's an airlines company where there are no other listed firms. Okay, so this is basically ABC. ABC Private Limited is private limited company. Okay, it is not listed in the stock exchange. Okay, it is not listed in the stock exchange. Since it is not listed in the stock exchange, I cannot calculate the beta, because the method we have learned is by regressing the returns of the market and with the national stock exchange or from Sensex. उसी से निकाला था ना हमने. तो यहाँ तो कोई सेंसेक्स नहीं है, वो कंपनी लिस्टेड भी नहीं है, उसका शेयर प्राइस भी नहीं है. So this is an unlisted company, and I want to calculate the beta of this company simply by taking the type of business and the financial leverage. So let's say, अच्छा, अब इसमें भी क्या होता है, we have to take the help of the market. Estimated average unlevered beta for aerospace business globally is 0.95. So this is given to you, and how we have calculated this is very important. This says that the beta of all the companies, for example, in America, there are about 50 companies in America, which is an airlines business. They are listed. Okay. Their unlevered beta is 0.95. Now you will ask me, how can we find unlevered beta of all those 100 or 50 companies that are listed in the stock exchange? Because when we calculate the beta of all those companies, we will get the levered beta only, isn't it? लेवर्ड बीटा मिलेगा, अनलेवर्ड बीटा मिलेगा. लेवर्ड ही मिलेगा बिकॉज मार्केट का रिटर्न लिखा है, वो दोनों का निकाल देता है, क्योंकि ऑल दोस 50 कंपनीज और 100 कंपनीज दे हैव टेकन लोन्स. Okay, so this is a combined leverage which we have got it. Now what we do is we calculate the levered beta first. To the of all the, suppose there are 100 companies in airlines companies in the world. So we have got their average beta as say 1. For example, let's say we got 1. And we found on an average these companies have taken 5% loan and 95% as equity. Okay. So what we did was we took all the companies, we calculate how much is debt, how much is the equity for each company, and then we calculate the average of that. How much is the debt, how much is the equity? We found that 5% was debt and 95%. I'm just saying that equity, just to explain. It can be even any percentage. We found 5% was debt and 95% was equity. So that means if the beta, levered beta of all these 100 companies was 1, so unlevered beta will be 0.95. isn't it? So there is a way of back calculating the unlevered beta of all the companies in an industry. Can we do that? We can do. First, calculate the levered beta of all the companies, and then calculate how much is the debt, how much is the equity. Okay. In this case, I calculated 5% was debt, 95% was equity. So which means the beta was 1. When I got the 100 companies by reversing the return, I got beta of 1. So now I converted that levered beta into unlevered beta of all that of this aerospace industry, which came to 1 point. I came to 0.95. Is that okay? Have you followed that? ये मैंने क्या करा था? समझ आया आपको? मैंने लेवर्ड बीटा से वही फॉर्मूला में मैंने लगाया, ये फॉर्मूला, और उसका वो निकाल दिया डेट इक्विटी करके, और मैंने उसको एडजस्ट कर दिया. जो ये फॉर्मूला पीछे लगाया था मैंने, इसी फॉर्मूला से मैंने, ये मुझे मिला था लेवर्ड बीटा था, तो मैंने डेट इक्विटी रेशियो लगाई, और मैंने टैक्स का भी देखा कि टैक्स स्ट्रक्चर कितना है, वो भी सब दोनों कैलकुलेशन करी, और मैंने अनलेवर्ड बीटा निकाल दिया. बिकॉज अनलेवर्ड बीटा विल बी लेवर्ड बीटा डिवाइडेड बाई 1 प्लस टी अपॉन डेट इनटू, आई कैन रीअरेंज द फॉर्मूला, आई कैन कैलकुलेट दैट. सो मैंने ये निकाल दिया. ओके, दिस इज द वे हाउ वी आर कैलकुलेटेड. ओके, नाउ दिस अ क्वेश्चन. नाउ लुक एट दिस. अब ये आपने करना है. ABC Limited gross debt to equity ratio is 18.95 and marginal tax rate is 34%. Estimate the levered beta of the company. So this is called bottoms up approach. Here we take the average. We take the, now just listen to me one more thing before you start doing it. Now here also we have taken the market beta of the listed companies. Okay, fine. But I say that the beta is calculated. Please listen to me, very important. उधर देखो, बीटा जो है हाईली अनरिलायबल होता है फ्रॉम द मार्केट. आई टोल्ड यू, व्हेन वी कैलकुलेट बाय रिग्रेसिंग द रिटर्न्स ऑफ द मार्केट with the stock, we can calculate the beta, and I say it's unreliable because people use different mechanisms. Some people use weekly returns, some use monthly returns, some use what, I mean, there are so many ways of calculating the beta. Okay, even if we assume that we are using the same mechanism, we are taking only monthly figures and everything and calculating the beta. But when we are taking the beta of 100 companies, okay, and when we are calculating the average of that, average purifies the data. Average purifies data. It helps to, make the data look much better. And you can draw a good inference from the average. For example, if I say there are 2 classes, there are 100 students in each class, class A and class B. When I took an exam of both the classes, on an average, students got 80% marks in the class A. In the class B, on an average, with the same exam, they got 50% marks. So I can safely say the class A is more intelligent and they understand better about the subject, and class B doesn't understand. Maybe there can be reasons. Class A is, more commerce background, and B is all science background, and the paper was more of a commerce background nature. So we can say that, class A has got more marks and it is much better equipped to handle that particular. So averages can tell you a story. Okay. And they can tell you, now within an average, somebody might have got 90, some might have 70, but average represents the class much better than individual numbers, isn't it? Individual numbers can be, the lowest number can be 60, highest number can be 100 even, but the average is coming 80. We say that overall the classes looks to be quite well equipped. Is that okay? So averages normally sanitizes the data. Okay, it takes out, and some people, they exclude the outliers. किसी के 60 है उसको निकाल दो, किसी के 100 है फिर एवरेज लो. So it gives you a much better picture about as a population as a whole. So average sanitize the data. So when I say the estimated beta, unlevered beta of aerospace is 0.95, it's an average of all the 100 companies, aerospace companies. Fine, which is a much better way of looking at the beta rather than looking at individual beta. Okay. Now just calculate.